Morning, afternoon, or evening. Brin with Assured Auto Works here. Apologize for the shaky camera and the terrible audio. Just wanted to show you a quick one here. We have a 2016 Mazda CX-3. I believe it's a 2-liter turbo. Anyways, first time customer brings it in. Their concern is that they, after driving for a while, they can hear the fan and the blower blowing, but they can't really feel any volume coming out of the vent. Said they've had it to a couple different shops, and the shops have fallen short of pinpointing it. Sounds like potentially they were unable to duplicate the concern. Fortunately for us, he was able to pull in off driving off the highway for a little bit, and we could see firsthand what was going on. So let's take a look at what we got. It's not a terribly complicated one. It's kind of a simple, quick one, but we think it's kind of interesting, maybe helpful to some of you. Again, apologize for the audio, being poor. But the other day when he came in, you could hear high fan speed, but you really couldn't feel any volume coming out of the vents. So when we were talking to the gentleman, we popped the hood, and I'll show you what we found. And in this case, we're not there yet, so I'll just show you a picture we took. We took a picture of the suction line. You can see here, that was the suction line on this vehicle the other day when no volume was coming out of the vents. You can see it's frozen. We looked at the AC compressor, and the clutch was staying engaged even though that suction line was frozen like that. Again, talking to the client, we popped that hood. We saw that frozen suction line. We saw that the compressor was staying on, the clutch was staying engaged. Looked really quick with a mirror and flashlight. We didn't really see any other, variable displacement, any kind of other controls basically going to the compressor. It looked like it was just a magnetic clutch. Suction line being frozen and the clutch staying engaged. It seemed like it was probably a control issue, pressure or temperature sensor of some kind is what we were thinking. But basically, if that suction line's frozen, most likely the evaporator core is frozen, and that's why we're not getting airflow. We can't blow air across the evaporator because the surface of the core itself is frozen. When I was standing with a client for a while, looking under the hood, that suction line started to thaw out, and then at that point, you could feel volume coming out of the vent. So, again, pretty sure, there's a couple things that can cause it. One being low refrigerant charge. Pretty sure it's a control issue. But if it was a low refrigerant charge, pressure, temperature would be as such, and the pressure potentially be as such that it would cycle. But either way, we're not sure at this point. But we decided to go ahead and do a quick performance test on the vehicle. So we decided to do a kind of a performance test. In this case, we have max cold, recirc, low blower speed, ambient temp is about 80 degrees, and the vent temperatures just above 25 degrees, which I'll probably look at the suction line in a moment. Maybe we'll see it frozen again. But clearly it's able to cool the car. We have some pretty low temperatures there. But seeing such low temperature, evap temperature, or vent temperature in this case, but yet the compressor is not turning off, we decided to check for fault codes. We didn't see any. There's no fault codes in there that were related, but we looked at the scan data, and this is what we found, or this is what we're finding today. The other day it was actually more dramatic. The inside car temperatures, the data pid to the right, top right now it shows 69.8. The evaporator temperature sensor shows 64.4. Now, the in-car temperature sensor is not going to be in the HVAC assembly, is my assumption at this point. That's the temperature inside the cabin of the vehicle. There's no way that the evap temperature sensor is going to be only 64 degrees when we have a temperature sensor or probe in the vent and we're showing for 24 degrees. So the other day when we looked, the evap temperature sensor was actually about 10 degrees higher than the in-cabin sensor. So right away we could see we probably had an issue with the evap temperature sensor. Basically, what we're dealing with here is either an erratic evap temperature sensor. The other day, again, the evap temperature sensor was actually 10 degrees warmer than the in-cabin temperature sensor, which just strikes me as erratic. You know, basically the controller is seeing that the temperature is in the 70s and it's not turning the compressor off. So the compressor stays on when the actual temperature is probably low enough to where the compressor should have turned off. And that's why we have the system freezing over and no volume coming past the evap core, and feeling no volume coming out of the vents until it thawed out, of course, and then the volume started to come back. But you know, again, if the evap temperature sensor is about 10 degrees higher than the in-cabin temperature, which is in the 70s, and the in-cabin temperature was in the 60s, but we were seeing 20s and 30s on the, you know, the tool, the temperature thermometer that we put in the vents, basically. Obviously felt like it was something erratic going on. Could be just that the temperature sensor fell out of the core, but my guess is it's still somewhat erratic, because even if it was, that did fall out of the core, that HVAC assembly is probably, you know, everything in there is cold enough to where it would be much colder. So I think we're dealing with more of an erratic situation. But what do we do here? Well, we got to verify that it's, you know, determine whether it's a bad sensor, if there's something going on in the circuit. Most likely it's a bad sensor. You know, it's not accurate anymore. But we're going to go ahead and check that out. We'll show you what we've decided to do. So luckily for us, Mitchell in this case had some service information with regard to testing that evap temp sensor. And in here you can see, if you look right here, that's 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and if you follow that up, over to your left is the resistance of that sensor. It looks like it's about 4, now that's kilo ohm, so about 4,000 ohms should be about 50 degrees. So what we decided to do is use this AES wave, excuse me, let me focus on it, AES wave adjustable resistor, and, you know, set it up to where it read about 4,000 ohms, which we've already done. In this case, you see 3.9K ohms. And so what we're going to do, let's see if I can do this. We're going to plug our breakout leads into this resistor and plug it into the vehicle harness, and we should see about 50 degrees in scan data. So let's take a look, see what we can do. So here's the evap temp sensor running up into, let's see, that green tube right here, running up into the cab, or the HVAC case. Here would be the connector. We've already unplugged it, and we've run our variable resistor here through our breakout lead kit into the vehicle harness side of the connector. And we've set it at 4K ohms, which should be about 50 degrees. And you can see on the scan data PID, sorry about the glare, you can see on the scan data PID we have 50 degrees showing up. So that basically verifies the circuit, the harness, the HVAC controller is doing what it needs to be doing, that we're dealing with an erratic evap temp sensor. Well, there you have it. Not a terribly complicated diagnostic case study here, but interesting all the same to me, you know, because I love this stuff, being able to reason through the symptoms and the data that you acquire through your approach, and being able to figure out how to prove, you know, what's going on is just always fun. You know, high fives all around whenever we get it right. And you know, the more training we attend and the more smart people we befriend and connect with and communicate with on a regular, getting it right prior to becomes the norm, which is awesome. So thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Very soon, day after tomorrow, we're going to be heading out to Overland Park, Kansas to meet and hang out with a lot of our friends in the industry and learn some great stuff. So hopefully we'll see some of you out there, if not this time, because I'm not sure when this video will be pushed out there, but if not this time, keep an eye out for any training in your area, but especially training events. Training events is just one of those things that just can make a difference. So look forward to seeing you guys out there somewhere. Talk to you soon.